This is a recap of the February 24th, 2020 City Council meeting. We started out the meeting, or the evening, with a closed meeting related to discussions relative to the possible sale of property. And of course, it was closed, so I can't say any more than that. But then we moved into a work session where we heard from Itasca Community College Provost Bart Johnson. And the college was annexed into the city a few years back. And so it was good to hear what's happening out at the college. Certainly an asset of our community, and we appreciate everything ICC does for us. He mentioned immediately the majority of his comments dealt with the recent press release of the further combining of the 5 community colleges in the northeast part of Minnesota into one. He emphasized that for the past 20 years, they have been merging. We've had one president for the past 20 years. Much of the staff, not faculty, but the staff have been combining within the past 20 years. And this new press release was to look at further combining by having one accreditation system instead of 5. So that would be the main focus of this combination. The foundation, for example, the ICC Foundation, will remain community-based. But he did notice this was a good thing for the further vibrancy of Itasca Community College. The 5 in our area are the 5 of the 7 smallest in the state. Itasca is the biggest of those. But this, by combining resources, this will put us in the upper 1/3 of all Minnesota colleges as far as attendance, enrollment. He did emphasize a name change could happen. There's nothing decided at this point, but this changeover will be complete with a new name, new structure as of the fall of 2022, so 2 years from this fall. So I'm sure there's more to come on that, but it was good to hear an update of what's happening out there, and look forward to hearing what's going to happen in the future. The regular council meeting, we had our traditional acknowledgments of boards and commissions and approving the minutes and the verified claims. On the consent agenda, there were 8 items, just a few of them. We approved the hiring of some golf course employees and hospital security officers. We accepted the resignation of Greg Chandler from the Public Utilities Commission and authorized to fill that vacancy. We want to make sure that we thank Greg for all the years that he put on that commission. He's spent a lot of time with that and has been a great asset to that committee. Moving into the regular agenda, we heard the department head tonight was from the police department. So Chief Johnson gave us a report that we hear from a couple times a year. He discussed a lot of data, but one of those was the calls they were receiving. I just jotted down a few notes that it's interesting that DWI calls are down, vandalism calls are down, and thefts are down. But what is up is calls on drug use, whether driving or otherwise. And he did mention that there continues, as across the country, there continues to be see meth specifically as a concern that affects families and affects people. He discussed there were 81 blight investigations, and he also mentioned that those are typically solved without tickets. A lot of times it's just a reminder, letting people in the community know what the policy is, and those things get taken care of without tickets generally. He discussed the education and the proactive visibility in the community and gave us a whole list full of things that the law enforcement does at community functions and so forth. He stated his department goals for 2020, and that one other stat I just wrote down was that 84% of animal control incidents are returned to the original owners, and then the rest are adopted. So we do get a majority of those back to the owners involved. We considered appointments to boards and commissions, and then we had a couple public hearings. The first was on amending the zoning map by rezoning 2 parcels or 2 properties from their current designation to SR4. And the best way to describe that would be the properties just east and just north of the West School. I believe they're calling that Rapids West now. So there's open parcel to the north, and there's an open parcel to the east where the pillars, which I should have mentioned, was also a new, the final plat of the pillars, which is a senior living facility, was approved. And so this was a hearing to consider the recommendation of the Planning Commission to rezone that. We did hear from both a resident of the area, and we received an email from a future resident of the area with their concerns, very legitimate concerns, and staff did the best they could to explain how they would be affected by that, and I believe a lot of those questions were answered in the positive. I know that some of the concerns were brought up were not particularly to this zoning issue, but to the past building of the school and concerns that were expressed about that. After that passed, we had a second public hearing to adopt the updated comprehensive plan for the city of Grand Rapids. The last plan was approved in 2011, and so we try every 7 or so years to update it and have a new comprehensive plan. This one took a little bit longer, but the group involved with that has been meeting for the past 16 months. I was one of the council members that was a committee member. We had 18 members from a cross-section of the community, both residents and business owners and industrial people in town, and a lot of other different unique constituents. And so it was a good cross-section of the town. If you're not familiar with what a comprehensive plan is, it's very important to a city because it's the citizens' plan. It's the citizens getting involved, and there were a number of public hearings on this as well, or public chances for public input. It affects future land use for the city. And so we heard an overview of both the process that was involved and the plan this evening. And it's, like I said, it's important. It's a guide for long-range planning and decision-making and a basis for zoning decisions in the future. And it's not that it's a set-in-stone document. Certainly we can hear from people and will hear from people at the time decisions are made. But it is a guiding document that is, comes up all the time on both issues of land development and zoning. So I want to thank those that were involved in the community, those that provided their input, the commissions that were involved, and finally the Comprehensive Plan Committee for all their work they've done the past 16 months, making sure that we're headed in the right direction. So with that, we adjourn the meeting. Our next meeting will be on March 9th, 2020 at 5 o'clock, and we'll see you then.